She picked an old water pipe and began flogging Foley with it.
Alone!
She asked Foley to leave the house and never to come back. Moses was now piecing it all together. First, the doctor scurrying away like a mouse, then Foley's foo-foo pestle incident, and now the flogging. There was no doubt in his mind that these two men had been molesting Agnes. As Foley staggered away, her emotions spilled over, and she dashed into the kitchen, beckoning to Moses to follow her. With a tearful voice, she bared her heart to him, her pain evident in every word. The noise drew Aryeh's attention, and he emerged from his room, concerned. He followed the voices to the kitchen, stopping at a distance to listen. Aryeh's heart sank as he caught snippets of the conversation. Unfortunately, in his distraction, he accidentally backed into an armchair. Both Agnes and Moses turned quickly toward the sound, their expressions of misery shifting to shock. Aryeh sat there in his wheelchair, unable to speak. The weight of the moment was too much for Agnes. She fled to her room and locked the door behind her. The fear and shame she had been scared of gripped her mercilessly, and she fell on the bed in a stupor. It was almost midnight before she regained her senses to find Aryeh by her bed. They had broken down her door. She could not bear to see the stricken look on his face again, and she once again bolted from the room. Aryeh went back to his room. The confession he heard was heartbreaking. How could he assimilate this magnitude of betrayal? Foley and Agnes. This was mind-boggling. Had their destinies been tied together to their ruin? Aryeh lamented. How could his bosom friend stab him in the back? Aryeh had always been generous and supportive of Foley, never holding back when he needed help. But now that he thought about it, did Foley ever truly appreciate his assistance? Perhaps he had taken it all for granted. A year ago, Aryeh discovered that Foley had misappropriated funds from the coffers of his construction company. When Foley returned from the UK, Aryeh entrusted Foley with a critical role as the leader of the company's finance team. Foley excelled in the position, streamlining the financial operations. With time, Aryeh felt confident enough to relax when it came to financial matters, knowing they were in capable hands. 3 years into this arrangement, Aryeh began to notice discrepancies in the financial reports presented to him. Among them were unauthorized transfers to an unfamiliar account. Puzzled, he tasked his assistant to investigate the illegal transfer of funds. The findings were shocking. The account belonged to Foley. It was not the same account he used for the payment his salary, indicating it was a secret account. When confronted, Foley lashed out, ranting and threatening Aryeh's assistant. Despite this betrayal, Aryeh chose to forgive him, hoping Foley would change. But Foley returned to work as though nothing had happened and continued his acts of deceit. Over time, his betrayals grew bolder. He moved company assets to unknown locations and showed no concern for the consequences. His unrepentant behavior left Aryeh questioning his loyalty as a friend. Why would his closest friend become envious as to wish to destroy him? And to think of the reason Foley gave for going to bed with his wife, it was a favor to them, he had said, to keep their marriage together. Aryeh's mind reeled at the audacity of it. If it had been a complete stranger, he had always told himself, he might have been able to bear it with some measure of stoicism. But not Foley, not his bosom friend. They had grown up like brothers, inseparable in every sense. They had slept on the same bed, eaten from the same plate, and been each other's only playmate in their youth. They fought and made up as though they were bound by something deeper than blood. Together, they had courted their future wives, learning to drive in their family compounds with whichever parent's car was available. Their mothers had watched from their porches, screaming in terror and laughing at their reckless attempts. They were Earth brothers. Aryeh tossed and turned in his bed. his thoughts a storm that would not relent as he grappled with Foley's actions. Meanwhile, in another room, Agnes was making her own plans. The shame and pain had become unbearable, and she decided to leave her matrimonial home before daybreak. Throughout the night, she sat in silence, wrestling with her thoughts while she packed a small bag. As the first light of dawn crept into the sky, she slipped out of the compound without a backward glance, her heart heavy with regret and resolve. That same morning, Ya arrived home, her steps brisk with a sense of urgency. After exchanging the usual pleasantries with her uncle, she stepped inside. The house was unusually quiet. The radio, which typically played lively tunes in the morning, was off, and the kitchen, usually bustling with the aroma of her mother's breakfast preparations, was eerily still. Puzzled, Ya made her way to her father's room. He was propped up on pillows, reading a newspaper. "Back so soon?" he asked, looking up with mild surprise. "Yes, Dad. Have you seen Mummy?" "She hasn't come in to see me this morning. She's gone." "Gone where?" Ya asked, her voice laced with concern. "She'll be back. I sent her on an errand," he said quickly, avoiding her gaze. Ya stared at him suspiciously. Something about his tone didn't sit right. Without waiting for a response, she walked out, heading straight to the courtyard. "Uncle Moses, where's my mother?" she asked with furrowed brows. Moses hesitated, his hands stilling a moment. He had come out of his room in time to see Agnes close the gate. She sometimes went to buy bread, but that was much too early. Ya's stomach churned. The unease she had felt earlier now solidified into a gnawing sense that something wasn't right. Concerned and restless, she prepared breakfast for her father and decided to wait a while before heading back to school. Meanwhile, Aryeh's thoughts were consumed by the betrayal he could no longer ignore. The knowledge of Foley's involvement with his wife weighed heavily on his heart. Desperate for answers, he called Agnes. Her voice on the other end was faint, almost unrecognizable. "Aggie, please come home," he pleaded. "I don't blame you for what happened. Please don't desert me." "I'm not deserting you," she said, her voice cracking. "I'm not coming back until I can forgive myself." Their emotions spilled into the silence that followed, each sobbing softly into the phone. Finally, Agnes ended the call, leaving Aryeh staring at the receiver, his heart shattered. Agnes had checked into the Twilight Hotel, seeking solitude to process her guilt and confusion. The sterile walls of the room provided little comfort, but she needed the space to clear her head. Unable to contain his frustration, Aryeh called Foley shortly after. "Your wife is gone," Aryeh said grimly. "Who is gone?" Foley asked, startled. "Agnes," Aryeh replied coldly. "The woman you've been helping me to keep, my dear brother." Foley froze, the words slicing through him like a blade. The weight of his actions felt heavier than ever. He called Agnes immediately. "Where are you?" He sounded annoyed. "Tell me, how did Aryeh get to know about us?" "I have no idea, Foley. You have been threatening to tell him." "I wouldn't have." "Have you fallen prey to the young doctor?" "Don't insult me," Agnes yelled into the phone. "Listen, wherever you are, head back to your home right away." "I'm not going back, not now." "That'll be senseless of you." "Listen, Aggie, I told you I got involved with you for the sake of my brother. There was a time when he worried about losing you to another man. I was never going to leave my husband, Foley. The two of us have disappointed him. We just threw loyalty and gratitude to the dogs. Not me. You will be making your own life miserable if you left. Go home and let your secret remain in that house. People will begin to ask why you abandoned your paralyzed husband." He seemed to sneer at her. Agnes felt a chill run down her spine as she processed his words. A thought crossed her mind. Foley should know about Ya spying on them. He sagged on the bed, the weight of his actions pressing heavily on him. Now he understood why Ya had been so cold towards him in recent times. "Well, now all the secrets have been laid bare," Foley declared, rising to his feet. "I'm leaving now to your house, and I expect to see you there." With that, he closed the door behind him, leaving Agnes bewildered. How could he even think of showing his face in their home? Foley, indeed, had no shame. Meanwhile, in the Aryeh residence, tension hung thick in the air as everyone fretted over Agnes's whereabouts. Aryeh cautioned Yah not to reach out to family or friends just yet. "There's no point in getting alarmed. She might be back before we know it," he reassured her, though his own anxiety was fully visible. Yah remained by his side, her heart racing with worry, unable to shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Yah stayed to prepare lunch. She called her father's name cheerily as she opened the door, only to find him slumped in his chair.